Welcome to Girlfriends Bible Study, a live Bible study with Connie and friends. Each week, Connie and her girlfriends engage in a lively conversation as they read and study Scripture. So grab a pen, your journal, and your best friend, and enjoy this enlightening Bible study.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bible Study Live with Connie and Friends. And right now I have my friend Dabrian. I'll let you see her for a quick moment. There she is. Oh, and my friend Spring just joined. There's Dabrian looking gorgeous as ever. And Spring is also there. And she'll be on camera at the end of Bible study, I'm sure. So I will pin myself again and welcome all of you. We are finishing our June theme of playfulness in the Bible. We've had a great time. Dabrian started us off with a wonderful message. If you haven't seen it, you need to take a look. You can go to Bible Study Live on YouTube and you can find it there as well. But it was a great study. And we've been doing studies every week, every Thursday. There were 5 Thursdays in June. So it was a lot. It was a lot. So we're finishing up today with a study of optimism. And the reason is because when I look up playfulness, it talks about lightness of heart. And then when I was thinking about what lightness of heart looks like and who it looks like, it made me think about an optimistic heart. A cheerful heart, an optimistic heart is light. It made me think of children and the references to children in the Bible and that lightheartedness that children have. They're playing. When you think of a child playing, the world is their plaything. They can make up a game on the spot. You can watch a child pick up. I remember Gina's son, her oldest son, PJ, when he was a kid, he would pick up a pen or anything or nothing. And you're thinking, what are you doing? Playing, just playing, light of heart, doing the thing, just cheerful and optimistic. They have no boundaries. Children have no boundaries in their thinking of what could happen. And that belief that anything could happen, anything good could happen when it's a positive thing. That's a spirit of optimism. And of course, I am an optimist. People tease me sometimes for being an eternal optimist, and I am. I can be rose-colored glasses and glass half full all day long. It doesn't mean I'm not human. I am human. And there are moments that I struggle to, but they're few and far between. Even when I'm having a moment in general, it's like, yeah, but I know everything's gonna work out. Like I can be emotional and still be optimistic at the same time because there's just that belief that things are gonna work out. That playfulness of heart, that lightness of heart, that feeling that anything could happen, anything great could happen, and I believe in it. So I'm going to talk about optimism and what it means to me. And when I studied it and prayed about it and got ready for tonight, I'll share some scriptures that I'll read. I'm also going to share a little story out of one of our, back in the day, y'all, this was the book, right? Chicken Soup for the Soul. And I have one, Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul. And what's interesting is I was going to look through, this is how God works. I was going to look through and see, maybe I can find a story in here that specifically deals with something optimistic. Do you know there is only one? When I go to the index, the table of contents, you can kind of see it there. So there's the beginning of the table of contents. Here are two more pages of the table of contents. You can see all of that, right? Lots of stories. Here's the final couple of pages. Look at that. There's one story that already had next to it. Just one. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't remember. I had to read it. When I read it, I just said, okay, God, I got it. Because that was the thing is, every Thursday, we're trying to figure out what part of playfulness do you want us to talk about? This story, it warmed my heart again. I have no idea when I read it the first time. I don't actually remember reading it the first time. It was sort of a little bit, tiny bit familiar, but not. But it made me think about lightness of heart. It made me think about what it means to be an optimist and why that story. And it kind of epitomized it. So I'm going to share something that I wrote down in prepping, thinking about optimism. I thought about three things. One is the belief that it's going to work out, no matter what, the belief that it's going to work out. And I'm not going to read these scriptures. I'm just going to tell you where to find them, because we have read these scriptures. Clearly, they're some of my favorites because we've read them multiple Bible studies. So we're not going to reread them today, but I'm going to reference them so you can find them and read them on your own. So first, the belief that things will work out, that everything will work out no matter what. Of course, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, which is found in Daniel 3. Daniel in the lion's den, which is found in Daniel 6. And of course, my boy, Joseph, who just is an optimist. He operates in excellence no matter what, because he believes everything is going to work out. He doesn't grumble or complain. Joseph's story it starts really in chapter 37 and goes through 47. You can read his whole journey. So I'm not reading 10 or 11 chapters tonight. So Joseph's story, read it, chapters 37 through chapter 46. Just read through the chapters and enjoy Joseph's story, because he really does, he is really a great illustration of the belief that it's going to work out. And it does for him. We're not going to read this story either, because I read this a lot too, but I forgot to look this up. So I'm going to ask Dabrianna to put it in the chat while I'm looking it up, or while I'm talking about it. Another part of optimism, and we're going to talk about that in this book, is taking the high road. And only when your heart is right and you've got a light heart, where you can rise above and take the high road and be kind, even though, which Joseph also did, but taking the high road, the story of the adulterous woman with Jesus, and how he took the high road. He could have condemned her. He took the high road. So that scripture, Dabrianna will put in the chat, and I'll tell you what it is in a second. And then we're going to read a story about taking the high road in Chicken Soup for the Soul, the woman's soul. And then last but not least, these are the scriptures I'm going to read. Thinking about being an optimist. What does an optimist mean? And I'm going to share a personal story quickly, but then I'm going to read two short scriptures about not taking no for an answer. Because an optimist, if the optimist believes the sky is blue, that's another scripture I didn't put in there. Dabrianna, I kind of know where this one is. Hold on. I just know this one too well, so let me just turn to it. When y'all know the story, when Elijah was with the fire and then he burned up the thing, and then at the end of it, where is it? I'm like just going through. Anyway, I'll find it, or Dabrianna put it in. When he has a servant come back and he's like, okay, is the rain coming? Go see if there's some clouds. And he keeps sending them back, and he keeps sending them back, and he keeps sending them back. And finally, at the seventh time, the servant's like, I mean, there's a cloud about the size of a man's hand, but all of that scripture, I want to say it's in one of the first somethings, First Samuel's, First Kings, First something. Anyway, there it is. Wait. Yes. First Kings 18. 43 through 46. First Kings 18, 43 through 46. If you read through that, basically Elijah was not taking no for an answer. He just wasn't taking it. It was like, go back, go look again, go back. So I love that. So here are two scriptures about not taking no for an answer. And then I'm going to read a really inspiring story out of Chicken Soup. So go to Matthew chapter 15, verses 21 through 28. Not taking no for an answer. Here's our girl. Leaving that place, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Canaanite woman from that vicinity came to him crying out, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is suffering terribly from demon possession. Jesus did not answer a word. So his disciples came to him and urged him, send her away, for she keeps crying out after us. His disciples, being with him, they still had no mercy. They were like, send those people away so we can go get some food. We need to order in. Can you get the people out of here? Jesus, you tell them all sit down. We're going to feed them. What do I food enough for them? They're always trying to send somebody with, stop calling his name. Get out of here. They were a mess. So in this case, here they are. Thank you, Debrian, trying to send the woman away. He answered, I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. So that's how he responded. He didn't just send her away. He turned and spoke to her. I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. The woman came and knelt before him. Lord, help me, she said. He replied, it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to their dogs. Ooh, that would have hurt my feelings. I would have gone away in tears. I'm going to tell you, this optimist right here, though, she wasn't taking no for an answer. Here's what she says. Yes, Lord, she said, but even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. Then Jesus answered, woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted. And her daughter was healed from that very hour. That's the kind of optimism I'm talking about. Optimism that does not take no for an answer. I know you got the ability. I know you have the authority. I know you can do it. I know you said no. I'm going to stay here till you say yes. And that's what happened. And I love that. And I have personal stories of this. I had 3 personal stories in one area. So personal stories of this specifically. So I love that form of optimism. And then look at chapter 18 of Luke, Luke 18, verses 1-8. Another one, same kind of thing. Then Jesus told his disciples a parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up. So again, don't take no for an answer. Keep praying, don't give up. He said, in a certain town, there was a judge who neither feared God nor cared about men. I don't even know why he was living. He didn't fear God. He didn't care about men. He not had nothing good. And then he gets to be a judge. Holy smokes. And there was a widow in that town who kept coming to him with the plea, grant me justice against my adversary. For some time, he refused. But finally, he said to himself, even though I don't fear God or care about men, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will see that she gets justice so that she won't eventually wear me out with her coming. He's still just worried about himself. Her thing is, I'm not giving up. I will wear you out if I have to. I'm going to keep coming back. That kind of optimism. I believe in it. Like with Elijah, go back, look again, go back, look again. Anyway, and the Lord said, listen to what the unjust judge says, and will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones who cry out to him day and night? Will he keep putting them off? I tell you, he will see that they get justice and quickly. However, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth? So that kind of optimism where you don't take no for an answer, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Now, the other one I had said was about taking the high road. I'm going to read a story about that in a moment. But in terms of not taking no for an answer, let me give you an example of a personal situation that I had. This was years ago. I had a car that had been leased. I needed to buy it. And at the time, I had, here's how we're going to say it optimistically and all PC and all the positive side. I had credit under repair. So I needed to buy this car, but my credit was under repair. And so I went into my credit union and I applied for, the loan to get my car, and I got declined. And so I told the young lady, who I will tell you is now a great friend of mine. She became a friend of mine because of that very moment. Much like with Elijah, I said, I need you to go back to them and tell them they need to approve the loan because I have to have this. This is the car I drive. I need to own it. The lease is up and now I have to buy it. So I need you to go back to them and tell them I need them to approve the loan. And she was like, okay. And she went and she came back and she said, they approved it. Thank you. That's what I needed them to do. And she said, how did you do that? And we sat and talked about going for what you want, believing it, knowing what it is, and not taking no for an answer. trusting that what you see, what God has shown you, is going to come to pass. That car had to be mine. I'd been driving it for over a year. It was going to be my car. I wasn't ready to turn it back in for the lease. I wanted to buy it. And in that same vein and spirit, she said, I've always wanted to work in public relations and for entertainment. Can I send you my resume? And I said, absolutely. And she followed up and did it. And I hired her and I worked with her and trained her. And then she went on and then we went on, and she ultimately became head of PR at different divisions. She lives in Texas now. At the time we were living in Atlanta, working at Turner. But Patricia is a dear friend of mine because of that moment, that faith moment. She watched me do that thing, and then she took her leap of faith. And that's that optimism I'm talking about, where you don't take no for an answer. You just don't take no for an answer. You just don't do it. So it happened again when I moved to Chicago, because, I didn't live in Atlanta that long, and I was Chicago was next. My credit was still under repair. I went to open a bank account, and there they run your credit before you can even open a bank account. So they declined me. And I said, I need a place to put my money. So I need you to approve me. And I just sat down. I'll wait. They brought the manager out. Ma'am, is there a problem? There isn't. I need an account. I need you to approve it. I make plenty of money. I've got, this will benefit you. Well, what we can do, there were some things on my credit report that were wrong and all of that. And they were like, you can go ahead and dispute this and then come back again in maybe 6 months. I was like, oh, no. I need it right now. I need a checking account. So I'm not waiting 6 months. I need you to approve me today. I'll wait. If there's somebody more senior than you here, I'll speak to them. If not, you can call them and I'll talk to them over the phone. And he was just like, so he walked away. And the customer service person was looking like, I don't know how this is going to turn out. This is crazy. He came back, ma'am, there's really nothing we can do. I was like, you're going to have to figure something out, because I'm not leaving until I open an account. I was told this is the best bank in Chicago, this branch, this chain, this name. This is where I want to open my account. I need you to open it. I'm making X amount of dollars. And one of the times, the final time I said, I work for Harpo and and he was like, you work for Harpo? That's all you needed to say. I'm looking for something I can tear. What can I tear? I have some in trash. He said, you work for Harpo? Oh, we don't even need this application. You guys get priority treatment. We can open it up now. And I said, I'm still the same risk I was when I walked in. All I had to do was say the Harpo name. I didn't know I had to say the Harpo name, but I said, I told you I wasn't leaving here without an account. I didn't know I needed to say that. If I had known that, I'd have said that from jump. But all I knew was this is where my account was going to be open. That application went in the trash. He said, you have priority treatment because you work for Harpo. Excuse me. And when I told him, I'm still the same risk, I'm still the same person, I haven't changed. So thank you. I appreciate you opening my account, but I knew it would be opened. I knew I would not be leaving here without an account. So thank you for doing that. So that whole not taking no for an answer, oh, I can do that all day long and twice on Sunday without hesitation. If I know it, I can do that. And then let me tell you, one time I got Gina to do it. I was living in Atlanta. Gina and Paul, PJ and Michael missed their flight. This is back in the day when we didn't have digital tickets like we do now. It wasn't all easy. And they were running late. They missed their flight and they had to get wherever it was to be there for a cruise. I think they were going on a cruise. And they ended up telling them, well, you're going to have to do this. And the change fee is going to be $250 per ticket. So it was about to be $1,000, which she did not have. And she called me and she was sobbing. And of course, first I was terrified because I thought something horrible had happened. But she told me what had happened and, that they had said, this is all. I was like, hold on. That's all it is. First of all, I'm glad you're safe and nobody's harmed. Say, I need to speak to somebody who can authorize this. That's all you need to say. She was like, but and she was all, I was like, it doesn't matter what they said. Somebody's got this authority, asked to speak to a supervisor. Okay. And she did. And she got the right person on the phone. And they said, of course, we'll do it. And they did it for a $50 change fee per ticket. They had to pay $200. That was it. That was it, instead of $1,000. And she called me back. I can't believe they have the authority to say yes. So I was like, oh, somebody has the authority. You just need to get the right person on the phone. They have the authority. They can fix that. Don't even worry about that. So that's when Gina learned too. Oh yeah, you don't have to take no for an answer. So that's another form of optimism, one of my favorites. So now that we're going back to taking the high road as a form of optimism, I'm going to read the story, but in terms of taking the high road, Debrian put it in the chat when Jesus took the high road with the adulterous woman. It's John chapter 8, verses 1 through 11. So you guys can look that up, and I'll also put it in the whatever underneath the description underneath. So I'll reference that when I do it. John 8, let me write it down so I don't forget. John 8, 1 through 11. So listen to the story. Listen to this story. All right, you guys ready? I know you are. Got you in suspenders. What could it be about? All right, it's called, which is interesting, it's called Graduation Message. So it says this: I'm a divorce lawyer. At times, I feel as if I've heard and seen it all. But 10 years ago, a woman walked into my office with a whole new agenda, and neither my life nor my practice has been the same since. Her name was Barbara, and as she was shown to my office wearing a rather plain Jane outfit, I guessed her to be about 19 and fairly innocent. I was wrong. She was 32, with 4 children between the ages of 3 and 9. I've heard many brutal stories, but the physical, mental, and sexual abuse that Barbara had suffered at the hands of her husband made me sick to my stomach. Yet she finished a description of her circumstances by saying, Mr. Concholino, you know, it isn't all his fault. My children and I have remained in this situation by my choice. I take responsibility for that. I've known the end to my suffering would come only when I decided I'd suffered enough, and I've made that decision. I'm breaking the cycle. I've been practicing law for 15 years at that point, and I've got to admit that in my head, I was getting great pleasure from thoughts of nailing that guy to the wall. Do you believe in forgiveness, Mr. Concholino? She asked. Of course, I said. I believe what goes around comes around, and if we try to do the right thing, good comes back to us. The clients of mine who have withheld forgiveness have withheld it only from themselves. Those words were so common for me that they practically spoke themselves. And yet, if anyone had cause to be full of rage, Barbara did. I believe in forgiveness too, she said quietly. I believe that if I hold on to anger at my husband, it will only fuel the fire of conflict, and my children are the ones who will get burned. She gave a tremulous smile. The problem is, kids are very smart. They can tell if I haven't truly forgiven their dad, if I am just saying words. So I have to really release my anger. And here is where I need a favor from you. I leaned forward across my desk. I don't want this divorce to be bitter. I don't want all the blame put onto him. The thing I most want is to truly forgive him and to have both you and me conduct ourselves accordingly. She paused and looked me in the eye, and I want you to promise to hold me to this. I've got to say this request was against my best lawyerly business advice, but it fit my best human advice hand in glove. I'll do my best, I said. It wasn't easy. Barbara's husband had no interest in taking the high road. The next decade was marked with his ugly character assassinations of her and repeated periods of non-payment of child support. There were even times she could have had him thrown in jail, but she never would. After yet another court session that went in her favor, she caught me in a corridor. You've kept your promise, Bob, she said, and she laughed. I admit that there have been times I've wanted to curse you for making me stick to my beliefs. I still wonder sometimes if it's been worth it, but thanks. I knew what she meant. In my opinion, her ex continued to violate normal standards of decency. yet she had never responded in kind. Barbara ultimately found and married the love of her life. Although matters were settled legally, I always enjoyed getting her Christmas card, hearing how the family was doing. Then one day I received a call. Bob, it's Barbara. I need to come in and show you something. Of course, I said. Now what? I thought, how long is this guy going to keep at this? How long before she finally cracks? The woman who walked into my office was lovely and poised, full of so much more confidence than she had possessed 10 years earlier. There even seemed to be a bounce to her step. As I stood to greet her, she handed me a photo, an 8x10 taken during her oldest son's senior year in high school. John was wearing his football uniform. His father stood to his left, rigidly and coldly. The boy himself was looking proudly at his mom, who stood close to him, a warm smile on her face. I knew from her Christmas letters that he had graduated from a very well-respected private high school. This was after he caught the winning touchdown in the championship game, she grinned. Did I mention that game gave their team the #1 ranking in America? I think I heard something about it, I smiled. Read the back, she said. I turned the photograph over to see what her son had written. Mom, I want you to know that you have been the best mom and dad a boy could ever have. I know because of how Dad worked so hard to make our lives so miserable. Even when he refused to pay all he was supposed to pay for school, you worked extra just to make sure none of us missed out. I think the best thing you did was what you did not do. You never spoke bad about Dad. You never told me he had other new kids to support. He did. With all my love, I thank you for not raising us in a home where the other parent was the bad one, like with my friends who went through divorces. Dad is and has been a jerk. I know it, not because of you, but because he chose to be. I do love you both. You would probably still slap my behind if I said I didn't love Dad. But I love, respect, and admire you more than anybody on the face of the earth. Love, John. Barbara beamed at me, and we both knew it had been worth it. That kind of optimism of taking the high road. And, you know, I hear about ugly divorces and things like that where it doesn't need to be. And we have choices. And to me, those three things of belief that it's going to work out no matter what, taking the high road no matter what, and not taking no for an answer. That's what it means to be an optimist. And only people who have lightness of heart, which means people who also can be playful, can take that high road, can believe that things will work out, and can trust that they don't have to take no for an answer. So that is the end of this month's theme of playfulness in the Bible. And today was optimism and stories of optimism. I'm gonna bring my sisters on the screen now, maybe if I can figure out how. And hello, sisters. Dave, Brianna, I'll start with you because you've been with me from the beginning. You're muted, so I have to unmute again. But did you have anything you wanted to share or say?
I just thought that was really good. I cried a little bit there with the story that you just read. So touching, so beautiful. And I just thank you for sharing that. And as a reminder of how it is that we are supposed to be like Christ. And I mean, the Bible talks about turning the other cheek. And if he does this, then offer him another, that whole thing. And understanding that is easier said than done, but it can be done. And that's what the Lord is calling us to do. And the only way that we can be free, which is one of the things that we had talked about, from the beginning of the month in terms of the freedom in Christ that we have that allows us to be able to be playful and to enjoy the abundant life that Jesus said that he came to give us, is that we have to accept all of what comes with being a follower of Christ. And part of that is in being like him and doing, as you said, taking that high road and being that type of person that is able to do that. And there is a freedom that comes with that, because nothing can be said about you.
Yep.
That is the greatest freedom there. It's like, nope, you can say whatever you want, but at the end of the day, my character speaks for itself. And I am striving to be Christ-like in what I do. And so that means this is how I'm going to carry myself. And so I just thought that was really good. And because we can do that, yeah, we can play all day.
Right? Go to sleep with a light heart. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And just thinking about those who choose not to, and just the torment that must be on their hearts and on their minds, and which is why they don't have that peace, they don't have that joy, they're not able to be playful and enjoy life, because of the choices that they are making to not do what it is that God just told us to do.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that's on you.
It's on you. I can't live like that. I can't sleep that
right
way. I don't have peace. So Sprinkle, you've got one of those hearts. So I know I'm singing your story.
It almost sounds a little like my story, doesn't it? Yeah, my heart breaks for, and especially children of color. And I mean, it's really all children, but I guess I have a close-up lived experience with children of color. And throughout the family, our families, and you can actually see, and even if it's not divorce, even if it's just parents that have a child, and where that parent is not paying child support, so you don't let him go, and he wants to have a relationship with the child, and there's so much hurt, and it's hurt. I'm not going to even call it anger. What I've seen is hurt. There's the heart, that bitter root is there, but it's from hurt and betrayal. Mm-hmm. And I would pray that the moms, or maybe it's the dads in some rare situations, but that they could have a glimpse of what that does to the child, and it would make them change their mind. I believe many hearts will be changed if they could take all that visceral, bitterness, and to just see what, because none of us, no good parent wants to hurt their child ever. Right. We take a bullet for them, we'll peel our skin off, we will do whatever we need to step in front of, for someone hurting our child. It's God put that in us, and I think because of that, the hurt and the pain is veiled, and so they don't understand. But when you talk negatively about that dad, no matter what, or who he was with, or what he was doing, or no matter what, to raise that child the best you can with the love you have, without sharing that with them, without talking negatively about their child, because I guarantee you, if you talk negatively about the dad, you're talking negatively about the child, boy or girl. It has nothing to do with it. So I don't want to, do a whole sermon and stuff here, but I just know that, on my heart, it breaks my heart, especially when I can see it. Even with my child as an adult, as we were trying to figure out maybe how many siblings he had, I could see the hurt in his eyes. He couldn't even handle that at 23 years old. Right. At 23 years old, it was just a hurt. And it wasn't, a bashing and all that, but it was just, talking about the children and what would have been the stepchildren, and just, kind of laying it out. And it was just pain there. So, they're going to have their own pain dealing with that parent either being in or out of their life. But if it's just a matter of missing child support, and that child is going to be safe, because it's about love. If all they can do is sit in front of a TV and eat some popcorn, that child values that time with that other parent, mom or dad, whoever, and they don't care what they've done. And I wish people really knew that, that they don't care what they've done. They don't care. They just want that they're a part of them. And so communing with them is, is their wholeness, is their healing. And so as long as you can make sure that they're in a safe situation, it's something that should be allowed. So, and actually I've been in that situation when you look at the fact that my girls were adopted and their birth father did reach out and say he just wanted to see them, but I didn't know him. I didn't know him. So even when they were little, I didn't know him. So I couldn't let them around him without me knowing his character and that they would be safe. So I made that decision. But when they were older and they wanted to, reach out to them, absolutely. When I knew that they, they could protect themselves and their hearts, but when I couldn't just let them go visit him, or even with another parent, because this is an out-of-state situation. But even if they're with a relative, like, an older aunt who says, oh, I'll take them by to visit them. He had never seen them in his life. He really wanted to see them. And I was like, but I don't know him. I know you, but I don't know his character. I can't, you can't just let your most precious thing that God's entrusted you with, because they're only given to us for a season. You can't just put them in a situation that you don't know about. I don't know what he practiced. There's people out there that practice Wiccan and all that, I don't know. And I can't have, no. So when they were old enough that, and look at it, one of them wanted to meet them and one of them didn't, because they're twins. So the one who really wanted to meet him, she had a relationship with him, and she ended up being the one that took care of his funeral services. He just passed away this past year. And I helped her write the obituary. I didn't know him very well, but he was her birth father, and she had established a relationship with him, and that's what we did. But I have no regrets in not sending them over there. Somebody's like, well, he's their dad. No. I mean, of course, they were adopted, so I didn't have a relationship with them, just to be clear. I did not know him. And it was my job to protect them, and that's what I did. And I make no apologies about it. But as far as my birth child and his dad, my ex-husband, I never, I followed the court order thing, and even though the dad didn't want to enforce it, I'd be like, you really need to see your son. And I just kept it as, but they never heard me speak ill of him. And never will. He's an adult now. He knows him. He knows
Right.
now. But
Yeah.
anyway, I didn't mean to speak that long, but I do know that story, and I do know that I just pray that people could release that. And for me, it wasn't a problem, but God, I was gifted with that I always knew. I was raised knowing that if you can't forgive, you're hurting yourself. I was raised knowing that. So it wasn't really an issue for me. I kind of more have to try to understand why people are so hurt and do so much stuff. So, and I do understand that too. I've seen all the abuse and all that stuff like that. But I just know that, forgiveness is for me, not for somebody else.
Yeah.
And with that being the case, I also know that with raising children, that you can't be ugly to the parent, because and you will end up being ugly to the child, whether you know it or not.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was going through divorce, I remember a friend said, people would assume that you were trashing your ex-husband. And I know you, and I have seen that you never do that. You don't do that, especially with your child. And he said, but you have to be careful, because sometimes you build your ex-husband up in your child's eyes, and then he falls short. And so you have to be careful to not err on the other side, because then that can still cause resentment, where you're like, oh, I'm sure your dad is going to do this and that and the other, and just trying to encourage him, encourage the child to be with the dad. And then if that doesn't work out, then there's resentment again, and not just
Mhm.
against the father, but then against you for building the dad up. And so I had to be careful both directions, that I didn't err either. It wasn't like you're saying, it wasn't hard not to trash my ex-husband to my child, because I know that's not a good thing to do. That was easy to not do,
Mhm.
but to also not unintentionally build him up
Build
to
him up,
something that he couldn't live up to. And the suggestion was, let your child form their own opinion, present the opportunity, make sure that you're presenting, those opportunities for them to spend time together, and let him form his own, let the child form their own opinion. So it was a good word that I needed to hear, that it was important for me to hear it, because it's a boomerang thing. You talk about somebody so highly, knowing they can't reach it. So when they fail, you're like, well, I talked you up. It's your problem. You didn't make it. And I wouldn't have done that, but it could be, that's how it could be. It could be the opposite. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't do that either.
Yeah.
So
No build up over here.
No.
Build up over here. Just let mama know you're safe.
Right.
Know you're safe.
Right.
Go visit, have a good time, say hi to everybody, hug your stepmom.
Right.
Tell her I said hey.
Yeah.
All that.
Yep. Yep.
But no, like, oh, I hope your dad takes you to Lion King. No.
No.
None of that. It wasn't even, I hope your dad has a conversation with you. I wouldn't.
No, I know. And I learned. I know I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Just make sure, come back, make sure, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
Everything healthy. Had a good, healthy weekend. There you go.
That's it.
Dust and done. Dusted and done.
Done and dusted.
Done and dusted.
There you go.
I
We
want
can call it dusted and done too.
I dust it first and then make it done.
Gina, I know you weren't on long, but was there anything you wanted to share?
I just appreciated, you and I had a conversation within the last couple of days about being gracious and how important that is as a leader. And parenting is probably the most important leader job you ever have. So it doesn't cost you anything really to be gracious. It may feel like it does. Sometimes you feel somebody needed to tell him, right? So, but that's almost never right. So just being able to be gracious, take that high road. You really can't. I mean, even if you have to speak the truth, speaking it in love, and being gracious when you can be, and not expecting everybody to do to earn everything. You know what I mean? Really showing people grace. And it does allow you to rest your head easy. It really does. And it does allow you to be joy-filled. I mean, I think I told the story before about when I was getting ready to get on a plane to somewhere, and these two young men came flying around the corner to TSA and then asked everybody, like, can we just do our flight? Can we go ahead of you? And I looked ahead of me 3 or 4 people, and I could see the frown on this couple's face. I mean, they had them, and I mean, the disapproval was just, he got all the way to those people. No, you can't go ahead of us. And I'm sure they felt like you needed to plan better, or you needed it, but whatever judgment they had, they don't know why these young men were late. They have no idea.
Right.
But the self-righteousness, like, I hope that keeps you warm and toasty at night, that self-righteousness, because someday
you're going to be that person.
You will need grace, or somebody you care about will need grace. And I hope you remember this time where you could have easily, it wouldn't have cost them. I'm sure they were there 2.5 hours early. You know what I mean? Their flight probably didn't leave till the next day. And they could have let those kids go. And they were kind of young kids. They were like early 20s at that. So, I think sometimes we can be self-righteous instead of righteous. And when we find ourselves not being willing to give grace, need to take a look at ourselves. We can take the high road, especially when it doesn't cost you. Most of the time, it doesn't cost you anything. Sometimes it really does cost you something, and even then, if you can do it, do it. But
it's right. It's an investment in your own future. Yeah,
And
you froze a little bit at the end there, sis, but I believe we got what you were saying. Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. Like I said, I was trying to decide, okay, I got to find a story in this book before the Bible study. And that's the only one with a star next to it. And I was like, well, I'll read that one. And so I read it before the Bible study. And I was like, wow, okay, that's the one I'm going to read. So anyway, it was great. So Dave.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that I find it interesting too, that with that being the story that you were able to find, the fact that it ended with Barbara showing the picture of her son playing football, him playing a game and him being a champion because of how she raised him. He was
Right.
able to be free to play and he was victorious.
Mm,
Mic
Yes.
and
Mic drop.
It all
Mic
comes
drop.
full circle.
Mic
It all
Mic
comes
drop.
full
But
circle.
listen, you guys, the name of the story is, so, I'm thinking like, what would it be about for it to be part of this? The name of the story was
You said
Graduation
graduation. Yeah.
Graduation Message. And I'm thinking, how is this going to be relevant?
right, right. Look at
But
that.
God.
I
But
hadn't made
God.
that connection that it was called Graduation Message. Yeah, you wouldn't have.
You wouldn't have.
I love
And
it how he puts it all together and puts a bow on it.
He puts it all together. And like I said, that's why I intentionally I'm showing you the table of contents, like look at all of the stories. Not one has a star, only one. Only one has a star, not any other. Like it would be, because I scanned through, like maybe there were a few that were my favorite or what. One story had a star. I don't remember the story. I don't remember putting a star on there. That was his name.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Oh, so let me tell you, next month's theme, I never know it by heart, I always have to look. So next month's theme, hotness in the Bible. Hotness.
Uh-oh.
That could be anything. Hotness in the Bible.
Okay. What's August? Do we have an August?
Yes.
Because I think I'm supposed to do one in August, aren't I?
You are. Wisdom, learning, and experience in the Bible.
Know nothing about that, but okay. And you say so.
Wisdom, learning, and experience. Yes. Gonna share some of that mother wit with a sprinkle.
Okay.
Anyway. All right, ladies, thank you so much for going on this journey of playfulness in the Bible. It took us all different directions, but it was so awesome. It was so awesome. It was a fun month. It was a fun month. So thank you for being with us. Thanks, Facebook followers and watchers and YouTube watchers. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this theme. Feel free to leave comments post a comment, whatever. You know what I mean. Say something. All right. See you next time.